Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, I'm a real world fast jet pilot, and I bring to you today a first look preview of the mighty DC Designs AV-8B for Microsoft Flight Sim. And I'm so incredibly lucky to get this early access and bring this to you. We've got a caveat that it is a preview, it's still work in progress. It may not be fully representative of the final product, but damn is it good already. So here we are in the cockpit. The weather is looking fairly cloudy but nice. The airport is Marina di Campo off the west coast of Italy, small island, Lima, India, Romeo, Juliet. And we're going to take this aircraft on the shortest of flights around this island, check out the scenery, but most importantly, check out the aeroplane, the cockpit, the external views. But what you're really interested in is how it flies in terms of STOVL, short takeoff, vertical landing. And right at the end, we'll look at the vertical takeoff and vertical landing and the characteristics. On the MFD, you can see you've got a forward-looking picture, which works really well. I like it. And now I'm checking out the nozzles. They are manually operated using the prop pitch axis at the moment. You can see them working beautifully. It is all manual. There's no keybind. There's no press to go STOVL. It is manually operated. The weather, SOFly Preset Pro, big and bold. It just looks incredible. Look at this scenery. So we go, taking the runway, we're going to do a short takeoff. I'll accelerate up to about 60 knots, put the nozzles about halfway down, and then lift off. I'm not a Harrier pilot, so please don't judge me too much on my procedure. I don't crash, that's the important thing. But in terms of the proper procedures, you can check out the NATOPS, and I'll put that in the description below, if you really want to check for proper technique and speeds. Here we go, airborne, gear, flap. Nozzles come back as we accelerate and we transition to proper forward flight. And by about 200 knots, just above, I'll put the nozzles all the way up. And then conventional flight. Look at that scenery. The noises, by the way, are incredible. DC Designs have done a great job with the sound effects. But if you check out their F14, I've used that in a recent video. The sound effects are some of the best I have heard, so love it. Cockpit looks great. We're going to take it around here, maybe do a quick aileron roll. But let's jump outside so you can see. You can get stores on this aircraft, but if it's available on Marketplace, then don't expect to have anything other than underwing tanks if that's what's available. In terms of release date and price, I don't have any of that information right now, but check out their social media feed for any of the latest information. Coming up on some of the best views in this video, when I look to the right, this cockpit, the contrast looks amazing, the island looks amazing. I'm using NVIDIA filter, so I've decreased some of the yellow or reddish hue. Make it a bit more blue. I think it just really pops. Less HDR, a bit more contrast in the shadows. Looks great. So now we're going to monster over this town as we go back towards the airfield, and we're going to do a vertical landing, a transition from a run in and brake. Just look at that view. Oh, it looks brilliant. Love it. Cool. So ideally, from a run and brake, you just go idle, bank, pull, and pop the speed brake. But because I'm doing a low run and brake and climbing, and I'm a smidge slow, normally 350 knots for this portion, I keep the power applied as I pitch left. Gorgeous airport. Quick check in the direction I'm going, watch out for the hills. This is of course non-standard for this airport. I just couldn't resist flying here. As we roll out, about 250 knots or less I think is decent. A nice wide pattern because I haven't quite got my my technique down for this portion. Below 250 I'm going gear, I'm going flaps to STOVL mode, I'm chucking the nozzles in about halfway, and then I'm looking about 170, 160 knots perhaps, and changing the water to takeoff. At this point the NATOP suggests 10 to 12 alpha. I'm just using the staple next to the flight path marker, and if you haven't seen my how to land any jet video, I'll throw a link in so you can look at that, and that describes how to use the staple. Around here you can either use nozzles to keep the alpha within limits, or you can use the speed. I use a bit of combination of both. I do pull a bit too much here, but that's not bad. The key thing is I end up around about 300 to 400 feet on the extended centre line. This is my second favourite part of the video because look at the contrast, the cloud, the green, the sea, it just looks brilliant. You can tell I'm kind of excited by this module. As soon as I flew it, I realised, hey, this is going to be really cool. Okay, as we come in, about 140 knots, I'm just moving the nozzles forwards, as in down. And you can slam them all the way to the down position or slightly forwards of the vertical, which gives you some braking action. Control the speed, and here we are approaching the hover. It is actually fairly benign in its handling characteristics, and I'll talk about more of the pedal turns, use of rudder in a moment. But it is accessible to the masses. This isn't too difficult to control. If I could utter the words DCS, if you've flown that one, that's a bit more twitchy, a little bit more realistic, and of course the HUD and all the bits, that is kind of study level AV-8B. This is kind of a stepping stone towards that. And I have asked if we can have a more sensitive flight model, and that might be on the cards, but for now it's fairly easy to balance. But of course you have to do it yourself. You have to use the prop pitch for the nozzles, the power for the up and down, and the stick for everything else. When you land, rip the throttle to idle. It takes a little while to settle. Like I say, this is still work in progress. But the landings are fairly simple too. So here's the VTOL. Listen to the noise. Oh, it sounds great. Love it. Excellent. What we're going to do now is a couple of pedal turns. Just turn at 180 and then land back on. I'll give you my final thoughts. In terms of here, I'm just using the nozzles a little bit for a little bit of forward flight. You could use the pitch as well. And a top tip, I reckon, whenever you're turning whilst in the hover, pick a reference feature. And if you find yourself moving from that reference feature, then adjust accordingly. Otherwise, it's really easy to get a bit of drift on. I'm using the white line to kind of stay over the center line of the runway. Bit of bank to move left and right. The rudder, even full rudder, is only a slow yaw, but very controllable. I'm drifting a bit to the left, some banking to the right. And that is it. Before you land, make sure you take out any sideways drift, and then as soon as you touch down, rip that throttle to idle. So now that we're here, I've mentioned DCS once, but like I say, this is a stepping stone towards that. I feel sorry for any developer trying to do an advanced aircraft, fast jet, swept wing, and chuck in STOVL and VTOL in Microsoft's flight dynamics. It's really tricky from what I've seen on previous efforts, but DC Designs have done a fantastic job with this already, and it's still early access, for me at least. It's not released, and we're still working on it. But it looks phenomenal. I mean, it's great. That looks great. But that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, help support the channel. If you see anything that you like, don't like, put it in the comments, because the developers often read through the comments, and you can help support the developer. But until the next time, take care, fly safe.